On the surface, it seems like the right thing to do, helping Iraqi families get back to their homes. But the problem is, it isn't safe yet.
My son was given a tent by the government and went back before us. While he was trying to pitch it in a yard, after being told that it was safe there, an explosion went off. His wife was killed instantly and he lost one eye, while the other needs several operations. His daughter was also seriously wounded.
Aid workers and refugees say Anbar province is still littered with booby traps left behind by Daesh. They also say people returning home are at risk from vigilantes. So why would the Iraqi government be exposing its people to such danger? Well, many believe it's because there's an election scheduled in May, and Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi wants it to happen on time. Buoyed by his recent defeat of Daesh, he now needs people to be at home to vote, but those who have returned say this tactic won't work.
If I go back and see my house destroyed, my money gone and my life ruined, why would I vote for them?
The United Nations says more than 3.2 million people have returned home, but aid workers in camps close to Baghdad say up to 5,000 people were forced to go back by Iraqi soldiers. The Iraqi military says these figures have been exaggerated, while critics of Abadi say the only numbers he is interested in are the ones he'll receive at the ballot box. If Abadi manages to secure a second term as leader, he'll have a lot of work to do. As well as stabilise and unite a country torn apart by 3 years of fighting Daesh, he has to weed out corruption, as well as deal with Iraqi Kurds hoping for independence. So, is the answer getting people back to their homes under any circumstances, or does it only threaten the country's fragile peace? Vanessa Keneally, The Newsmakers.
Well, joining me now from Manchester is Luqman Faili. He's the former Iraqi ambassador to the United States. From Baghdad, we have Ahmed Rushdie. He's the foreign policy advisor to the Speaker of the Iraqi Parliament. And in the Iraqi city of Karbala is Ali Dabbagh. He's a former Iraqi government spokesman. Gentlemen, I thank you all for joining us. Luqman Faili, let me begin with you, Mr. Ambassador. We have about 2.5 million people. There are reports that they are being forcibly returned to their homes and they don't want to go. Is the Iraqi government bungling this whole process?
I don't see it that way. And the 2.5 million are in different geographies, different towns, cities, some of them been there for a few months, some of them been there for over 2 years now. So to that effect, the government are trying to relocate them, take them back when they think they are safe. True, there is some unique situation in Anbar because of the close proximity. That's true, but that has not stopped the government from focusing on returning the refugees or internally displaced safely as soon as possible in a safe way.
Okay, so Ali Dabbagh, we have a situation where you have people who are deeply traumatized, of course, during the battle against Daesh. It's great that Daesh has, for all intents and purposes, been defeated. They've been in refugee camps. They have many worries. They have worries about booby traps. They have worries about vigilantism, about Daesh re-emerging. And of course, some of them have suffered at the hands of Hashd al-Shabi. Their homes don't really exist, most of them. Their homes have been reduced to rubble. Is the Iraqi government maybe not taking all of these considerations into account and trying to just rush to send them back?
I think it's one of the big challenges for the Iraqi government and Mr. Abadi and the local government of Anbar as well as Mosul to bring them back homes. But I don't think that anybody could force them. You could see that the government being criticized as they are not allowing them to go back homes post-Daesh liberation of Mosul and Anbar. And now the government is being criticized for forcing them. I don't think the government, the local government Anbar, as far as I know, that they are encouraging them. They are giving them some financial aid to repair the damages, which is for their houses. The problem arises for those who have their houses fully demolished, fully distracted, and they don't have a place to live. And they are not the majority. And actually, the government, it is connected to the election, by the way, that the people are giving these reports as to keep them in the refugee camp in order to give the causes that the election cannot be handled with the people being in the refugee camp. I'm quite sure that Haider al-Abadi is trying to solve this problem in order to have the election being executed in month of May, and of course, keeping them in the refugee camp. It is one of the negative issue with the election, keep them there, because it's not easy to handle the election while they are in the camps. Plus, as I said, it is a big challenge to the government. So the government is encouraging them, actually, is not forcing them.
Yeah. So, Ahmed Rushdie, it's unideal to have people in IDP camps during an election, undoubtedly. But isn't it worse trying to rush them back home because of that election? Might it not be worse?
First of all, there's a problem with the trust. There is no trust with the local government or the central government, is that they can maintain our needs in our homes, that if our homes is safe until now. All these things have been talking inside those camps. And enforcing people to go back, it's the same, just like it's the opposite that what Mr. Al-Dabbagh said. It's because the government want the elections to be held at the same time. At the same time, it's supposed to be, even with all the obstacles that in hand. It's not only the IDP, it's the presence of the Hajj Shabi, it's the presence of booby traps, it's the presence of, there is no real infrastructure. All these things are not in hand, not real hand for the local government or the central government on those areas. So why enforcing people, why pushing them to the houses? Well, between brackets, encourage them to go to the homes. It's definitely to held the elections at the same time it's supposed to be. But at the same time, the Prime Minister said the elections cannot be held until all the ITBs go back, first. Secondly, made appropriate arrangements for the ITBs inside their homes. And thirdly, there will be some sort of emergency projects for the infrastructure to be, let's say, to make it appropriate environment. And fourthly, which is a very important issue, the documentation issue, is that all these people who are going back, they have the real documents to participate with elections. And I think it's not easy. It's a hard task, and it cannot be held without about three. You cannot manage to do all these works in about, let's say, 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. Something that's interesting, one of the internally displaced Iraqis, Luqman Faili, whose name is Mehdi Ahmed, was quoted in Reuters, very cynical about the government's plan, saying the government has achieved the reverse of what it intended. He said, quote, "They are doing this because of the election, but if I go back and see my house destroyed, my money gone, and my life ruined, why would I vote for them?" So, I mean, these are not stupid people. Does he have a point?
No, certainly we should empathize and understand the background, the misery, the challenge that the civilians who were trapped or who were taken hostage by ISIS, and the government have tried to free them into these camps. Nobody should deny that. Certainly the environment is not best suited for them to go back, or that the election can be taken smoothly. However, the issue of the election, the calls is across all the politicians. They are calling for it. Some are specifically in the Anbar and the Mosul areas. They are feeling that they are disgruntled politicians, and therefore they need to re-legitimize, and therefore that's the type of political games they are playing with the government. On the other side, the Prime Minister himself will not expect votes for himself in these areas anyway. So this is not a driver for him. On the contrary, he himself has called for the local authorities. He has empowered the provisional governors with the power of the authority of the Prime Minister to work with. So when we say the government, I hope we're not talking about the Prime Minister alone. I think we're talking about the local authorities, central government, other ministries, including the Ministry of Defense, who have authority on the area.
Okay.
Yes, we do have a challenge. We don't have an alignment of the political class, and certainly the government infrastructures are not fully equipped to deal with the masses of such a scale.
Okay, that's an interesting point. So let me ask Ali Dabbagh, do we have a situation where the central government doesn't have full control over local government, and then that opens up the question of a kind of sectarian difference as well? Lack of trust, is that where we're at?
I don't think this arises now with Anbar. The governor as well as the council, they are totally working with the policy of the Baghdad and the instruction of the cabinet. And I don't think there is a mistrust which was before with some of the for example, with Mosul Council, with even Anbar certain times. But now I think that it is like a homogeneous issue between the Baghdad as well as Anbar. I think the local government, they are taking the initiative to encourage the people to go back, as they are keen that the election need to be held on time and not to keep them, because by anyway keeping them in the whatever the situation in their home back in Fallujah or in the other places in Anbar, definitely is much better than, even with that destruction, is much better than living in a camps with the difficulties arises and the weather now and in the desert and the whole situation. At the end is the dignity of the people and the feeling of the people when they be back. Definitely it's a challenge. Definitely there is a complication and difficulties they are going to face, as well as the local government will face. But they are trying. As far as I know, yesterday I was speaking with the governor and with some of the council, and they said they are working day and night in order to do whatever they can within their capacity, within their financial capacity, in order to help the people to be back, even providing them some tent in there for those who have their houses fully demolished. Even they have, a tent, and they said live in this place rather than in a camp, which is you don't feel as you are a human being in the camp.
Okay, so Ambassador Luqman Faili, you're suggesting differences in terms of authority and maybe differences of opinion between the central government and local government. Ali Dabbagh says no. What are you talking about? They're homogenous. They're all on the same page.
No, the governor of Anbar recently changed, and that was not changed because of a normal process. It was changed because of the problems internally within the governorate. So that's one reason. And we have the same across a lot of other governorates, even in Mosul, as Ali mentioned. So to that aspect, what my point is, politicians in Baghdad who are representative of that area, parliamentarians and others, are pushing for the people to go back because of the election aspect. On the other side, the election commission said they are happy to conduct these even if they are in the camps. So to that, I don't see the election as the main driver. Yes, I see it as a tool being used by the political class, unfortunately. People have to pay casualties for it. On the other side, I don't think it's safe for us to say that because of dignity, people can't go back to their camps and their derelict homes because that gives them dignity. The government is responsible to provide them a safe environment, whether they are in a camp or anywhere else. And that's an obligation on the government. There is a work with international organizations, including UN, to make sure of that aspect of it. So here, human rights should override any other right.
Right. Ahmed Rushdie, let me ask you about trust, because there can be laws on the books that are not discriminatory, but governments can set a tone in which large groups of people feel marginalized. A lot of people said in the past, Nur al-Maliki's government disenfranchised or marginalized, alienated Sunnis, which was one of the reasons for the rise of extremism and, for example, Daesh. We have a situation where you have Sunnis who were beaten and battered by Sunni extremists on the one end, and then on the other hand, you have Shia militias in the fight against Daesh, who sometimes did unspeakable things to these Sunnis as well. And now you find them in these camps going home and not really sure whether they want to go home. Let's talk about trust for a second. How can this government actually ensure that these people will trust that they're not going to take it out on them, that they're going to treat them as equal Iraqis and they want to give them a proper life in the present and the future?
Well, Imran, before that, they have a question. Why should I pay attention for the next election? Why should I participate in the first place in these elections? Does this election going to make my life different? All these questions now in mind, and it's supposed to be the responsibility of the government, the central and the local, to build up a trust until the day of the elections, to say to them, it's your own duty inside the new political process to try to change things in Iraq. This is the first phase. The second phase, which is a very important issue that Mr. Al-Dabbagh said, that the local government actually doing their best. But the problem, yes, they are doing their best, but the problem, what are the results? Does the results will be a very good, or let's say a suitable environment to make the people going to participate in the elections? Is this rosy picture will happen? I don't think so, because Iraq has a financial crisis, first of all. And secondly, there are reports saying that until now there is Daesh, about 3,000 fighters, and other reports saying that it's about 9,000 fighters. So what they're going to do in the day of elections? They're going to stay in their camps, or let's say they're going to stay in the tunnels or in the desert? Definitely they're going to do something. To say to the people is that we are here. If you're going to participate in the elections, we are here. We're going to bomb. We're going to attack all these centers of elections. All these things in the mind of the people inside the camps. And also they want to show that their daily life needs is already on the table. So if they are now in the camps, it's more safe than to go home. And also, maybe it's a suitable environment also for his children and for his family as a single IDP. Now, there is another problem, is that the lack of trust made something else, is that what our future will be. How our future will be. We don't know the people that they're going to be elected. We don't know actually how they're going to manage our governorate. Is there any plan? Does the candidates already make a plan, or may show them a plan for the future of Anbar, for example? All these things is in the mind in the IDP. And for sure, the sleeping cells of Daesh, they are waiting for something like that. They are waiting for those questions. Because if there will be no answer for all these questions, they will say to the people, okay, guys, you changed us. You deserve what's going to happen to you. Because at the end, we need to make a change inside Anbar just to make a picture is that it's different from Daesh.
Ali Dabbagh, Ahmed Rushdie has big fears for the next few months. A lot of questions he once answered. Do you agree with him?
No, partially I agree. But again, I mean, terrifying the people is not the right way. We have the worst situation was on 30th of January 2005. Which we got nothing, no security forces, only the American by that time. And the people, although in spite of that, terrifying them that they come for election. And this is not connected with the IDP. This question which Mr. Ahmed raised, definitely is true for all Iraqis. It's not connected only to IDPs. There is an anger among all Iraqis about the elite and the politicians right now, which they had mislead the Iraqis, and they didn't present, they didn't give it, they didn't fix the problems, they didn't give them the services, and finally they like participate or doing what is the end, that Daesh and ISIS came to Iraq and occupy 1/3 of the country because of the wrong policies. Definitely, I do agree, but again, I don't think ISIS and the people of Anbar, Al-Mosul, Salah ad-Din, those being terrified by Daesh, they are immune now from ISIS, no more. I don't think neither ISIS nor any other copy of ISIS could make them agree and satisfy that they are going to be an alternative for them. And I don't think any one of them could listen to any more this agenda, this ideology, because definitely they are immune because of the horrific situation they had faced.
Understood.
I do agree on that the difficulties which is they are facing definitely make them less participating in the election, because they found that those politicians, they are most of them liars. They are not giving them what they had promised for. So I do agree that the next election is a challenging election, and the people are less in percentage-wise. They will be less participating, but again, this is not connected to the IDP. IDP, they have their own problems, and I think the most immune people from listening to ideology of ISIS, they are the IDPs. Yes.
Okay, gentlemen, I've got to move on, but it's been a good education talking to all of you. I thank you all for joining us here on the Newsmakers. Luqman Faili, Ahmed Rushdie, and Ali Dabbagh. Thanks so much.